Good morning, my lovely things. Welcome back to the cavern. To the newcomers, welcome. I hope everyone is doing wonderful and having a great week so far. While researching on dolls, I stumbled across a grave robber in Russia named the Dollmaker. It's a bizarre case. Anatoly Moskvin was known as an expert on cemeteries in his city of Nizhny Novgorod, Russia. This obsession started in 1979 when Anatoly was 13. While he was walking home from school, a group of men in black suits approached him. These men were on their way to a funeral for 11-year-old Natasha Petrova and dragged Anatoly along to her coffin where they proceeded to force him to kiss her corpse, which I thought was kind of weird. Moskvin wrote that he kissed her 3 times when the grieving mother put a wedding ring on his finger along with Natasha's, signaling that they were now married. After this strange occurrence, Anatoly began wandering cemeteries as a schoolboy. Now, this event that occurred with Natasha Petrova may not have actually happened. There's no way to prove it or disprove it. Everybody was just going by what he has said about this. Eventually, when Anatoly became an adult, he earned an advanced degree in Celtic studies. He also mastered 13 languages and was a published scholar. So somebody that seems respected. From 2005 to 2007, he claimed to have visited over 752 cemeteries in Nizhny Novgorod. He had detailed notes on each one and delved into the histories of those buried within. Anatoly claimed to have walked over 20 miles per day, sometimes sleeping on hay bales and drinking rainwater from puddles, which sounds like somebody who is obsessed, just a little bit. He even posted a documentary series of his travels and discoveries entitled Great Walks Around Cemeteries and What the Dead Said. Anatoly also spent one night sleeping in a coffin ahead of a deceased person's funeral. Unfortunately, these observations turned to something more disturbing. In 2009, locals started discovering graves of their loved ones were desecrated, sometimes completely dug up. The leading theory was that these acts were done by some extremist organization, and the law enforcement beefed up their police units. They also set up groups composed of their most experienced detectives who specialized in extremist crimes. However, for nearly 2 years, the leads went nowhere. Graves continued to be desecrated, and no one could understand why or who was behind these acts. In 2011, a break-in investigation finally came, following a terrorist attack at Domodedovo Airport in Moscow. Shortly afterward, authorities received intel of Muslim graves being desecrated in Nizhny Novgorod. Investigators were led to a cemetery where someone was painting over the pictures of deceased Muslims, but not damaging anything else. This was where Moskvin was finally caught. 8 police officers went to his apartment after they apprehended him at the graves of the Muslims to gather evidence. What they found inside was shocking and pretty messed up. The authorities found life-size dolls-like figures throughout the apartment. The figures resembled antique dolls. They had fine and varied clothing. Some wore knee-high boots, others had makeup on over their faces. Most men had covered in fabric. He also hid their hands in fabric as well. However, these weren't dolls. Instead, they were mummified corpses of human girls. When police moved one of the bodies, it played music as if it was on cue. Inside the chest cavities of many of these dolls, Moskvin had embedded music boxes. Strewn about the apartment were photographs and plaques taken off the gravestones, doll-making manuals, and maps of local cemeteries. Police even discovered the clothes worn by the mummified corpses were the clothes in which they were buried. Moskvin explained that he would stuff the decayed corpses with rags and wrap nylon tights around their faces or fashion doll faces onto them. He said the reason behind his actions was because he was lonely and single. He longed for children, but the Russian adoption agencies would not let Anatoly Moskvin adopt a child because he didn't make enough money. He added that he had done what he did because he was waiting for science to find a way to bring the dead back to life. In the meantime, he used a simple solution of salt and baking soda to preserve the girls. He would even celebrate birthdays with them as if they were his own children. And he would even watch cartoons with them. What's interesting about all of this is Anatoly lived with his parents in that small apartment. They saw the dolls, but thought it was just his hobby of making life-size dolls, and saw nothing wrong with it. In total, the law enforcement found 29 dolls ranging in ages between 3 to 25. One corpse he kept for almost 9 years. He didn't kill any of his victims. They all were from various cemeteries. Moskvin had told the victims' parents that they abandoned their children and he brought them home and warmed them up. Unfortunately, that's not very comforting to a parent who buried their child only to have their child dug up and brought into this person's care. He was diagnosed with schizophrenia and sentenced to a psychiatric ward. In 2018, he was faced with the opportunity to continue his treatment at home. The parents of the victims, I guess you could call it, feel that he should actually be locked up for the rest of his life because of what he did. What are your thoughts? Do you think he just needs long-term care? Or should he receive a harsher penalty for his crimes? Let me know in the comments below. I'm curious. I don't honestly know what the outcome should be. I think he's a disturbed or troubled individual who just needs some treatment, somebody to talk to about the difficulties he's having, maybe with his loneliness, things like that. I don't know though. Thank you so much for sticking around till the end. Next month, I'll be discussing strange cases throughout history and some bizarre things that have occurred in history, which might be something I continue with going forward. I'm not entirely sure yet, so don't quote me on it. Later tonight, I'll discuss my review of 31, the Rob Zombie film. Next week, I'll share my review of American Horror Story Season 2, which will be Tuesday. So far, anyways, since it's not over yet, that season, that is. If you don't want to miss those, click the bell icon to be the first one to know when a video is up. Want to show your support? Click the like and subscribe buttons. It means so much to me. Thank you again. I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. Take care until next time. Bye, everyone.